So I once listed a house for $74,900, even though myself and the seller believed it was worth around $135,000. We ultimately sold that property for well over the asking price, actually $145,000. Now, when I entered this into MLS, it wasn't a typo, it was not a giveaway, it was a strategy. It was a selling strategy. Most sellers begin with the same question. What is my house worth and how high can we list the property for? Which are both good questions. But look, a seller has an opinion of a value of their home. The real estate agent has an opinion of the value of their home. The appraiser will eventually have an opinion of value, right? And all those matter. But what matters most? Ultimately, the seller, the listing agent, the appraiser, they don't get the real final vote, right? The market gets the final vote because somebody can pay over an appraised value for a home. It happens all the time. But here's the important part. One buyer does not really determine the market value, right? One buyer can tell you what one buyer is willing to pay for a property, but when you expose a property to a large group of qualified buyers and give the market an opportunity to respond, you then begin to see what a property may actually command. That is why simply listing a home at what we believe to be the market value is not always, again, not always, the only strategy worth considering. Sometimes the smarter question is, what price would make buyers stop scrolling, pay attention, and start competing with one another? That is exactly what I did with this property on Arcadia Drive in Baton Rouge. I believe the home would be around $130,000, $135,000. The seller and I talked about potential strategies. They liked the strategy, so we listed it for $74,900, and the response was immediate. I think we received, this is a few years ago, but if I had to guess, I just remember just offers piling in. If I had to guess, we received 20 to 30 offers. And again, the property sold for $145,000. That's $70,000 over the asking price. So, and it was more than what myself and the seller thought it was worth initially. So why did this work? Part of it, of course, is human psychology. When buyers believe they are the only buyer interested in the property, in a property, they have time to slow down, they can negotiate, they can look for reasons to pay less. There's really no time is of the essence. But when they realize other buyers want the same property, their thinking changes. Not all, but most buyers, potential buyers, thinking will change. Now they're not only deciding whether they want the house, they are thinking about what they may lose if someone else gets it. So that is the difference between interest and urgency. So think about it, I guess you could say like an auction, right? If only one person raises a paddle at an auction, you learn what one person is willing to pay, right? But when you put a room full of qualified bidders that start competing against one another, then you get to see a real market value. Now, residential real estate is not a literal auction, right? But the principle is similar, right? One buyer gives you an opinion, multiple buyers give you a market value. So again, I feel like I need to repeat this. This is not a strategy for everybody, okay? This is just a strategy for some. So the goal is to create enough attention that the seller can evaluate what the broader market is willing to produce. The low list price did not reduce the value of the property on Arcadia. It created the environment necessarily for the market to reveal the value. It just works on some properties. Now, I use the same strategy on another property on Clinton Allen Road, our similar strategy. It was originally listed for $269,900. We later reduced it, a little small reduction to $259,900, but the seller was still not getting the activity. It wasn't matching the timeline that they needed. They were ready to go. Now, we could have continued making small reductions until we found that little sweet spot, and that's what most people do. But instead, I recommended a major repositioning. And we talked about this strategy in the initial listing appointment, but it's a little risky, right? So we reduced the price to $199,900, and that move created activity in multiple offers. Now the property ultimately sold for $252,000, and the seller was very happy. So look, attention creates activity. Activity can create competition, and competition can completely change the negotiation strategy. Again, this is not for everyone, but I will say this. Who taught me this strategy was a real estate coach that I was with at the time. He believed that you should do it with every property. I just can't say that I'm willing to do that with every property, but we're in a market now where I think it may be a fit for a lot of potential sellers, because again, ultimately, the market's going to determine what the value of your property is. So look, my job is to understand the property, understand the seller's circumstances, study the market, and put every reasonable option on the table. So if your home has been sitting, you're currently listing, or maybe your listing agreement is coming to an end and you're under a tremendous amount of pressure to sell within a certain time frame, you want to have this discussion after your contract is over, feel free to give me a call and we can discuss it. I'll give you an honest assessment, show you your options that you may have not considered, and this is one of them. So my name is Brandon Browning. My cell phone number is 225-445-0629. So let's talk about how to make the market compete for your property and get your home sold and get as much money in your pocket as possible. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, be blessed.